one of the darkest figures in American crime history. A man who did not commit violence in moments of rage, but turned it into a deliberate way of life. This is not exaggeration. This is the life of Carl Panzram. He was born in the summer of 1891 in a small and isolated town in Minnesota. His family were immigrants from Prussia, living in deep poverty. A wooden farmhouse, strict rules, and almost no affection. When Carl was 7 years old, his father abandoned the family. No explanation, no goodbye. That abandonment became the first major fracture in Carl's life. At the age of 8, he encountered the police for the first time. The reason was simple, but telling. He had been drunk, causing disturbances, picking fights, and damaging property. Authorities dismissed it as a troublesome child. But for Carl, it was the beginning of a war against rules themselves. At 11, he was caught stealing and sent to a reform school. This was not a place meant to correct behavior. It was a place designed to break it. Cold walls, locked doors, violence without consequence. Power was the only currency there. Years later, Carl would describe that place with a single word: hell. At 12 years old, he set fire to a building inside the reform school. As the flames rose, he did not run. He stood there and watched. About those years, he would later write a sentence that revealed everything. This world is a cesspool, and I intend to destroy it. In 1906, he was released under the condition that he remain under his mother's supervision, but Carl had no intention of staying home. At 15, he ran away and boarded a freight train illegally. What happened during that journey stripped away whatever humanity remained inside him. From that moment on, people were no longer individuals to Carl. They were objects to be used. At 16, he enlisted in the army. Discipline did not reform him, it hardened him. He stole, disobeyed orders, and ignored authority. He was court-martialed and sentenced to 3 years in prison. When he returned to civilian life, the violence did not slow down. It escalated, city after city, leaving behind robberies, arson, and severe crimes. Using money from a burglary, he bought a yacht. For Carl, this was not freedom. It was absolute control. In 1920, he lured sailors aboard with promises of free alcohol. One by one, they stepped onto his boat. Once they reached open water, there was no chance of return. What happened on that vessel was later described by Panzram himself with chilling detachment. Control, forced submission, and then silence. The ocean concealed everything. When he returned to shore, no one was waiting for him. That absence of consequence only strengthened his confidence. He traveled to Africa. In Angola, he found work with a company involved in industrial operations. But violence followed him wherever he went. In his writings, he described his actions without emotion, no regret, no hesitation. In 1923, he returned to the United States. The cycle resumed where it had left off. In 1928, he was finally caught and sent to Leavenworth Prison. The first thing he said upon entering was this: "I will kill the first man who bothers me." This was not a threat, it was a promise. He attempted to escape. He was caught, beaten severely, but not broken. A young guard named Henry Lesser felt sympathy for him and provided paper and a pencil. Carl Panzram began to write. His life, his hatred, his contempt for humanity itself. I hate people, including myself. In 1929, he killed a prison worker. He had fulfilled his earlier promise. The trial was brief, the verdict inevitable. Death. He threatened even those who tried to stop his execution. He did not want to live. In 1930, as he stood on the gallows, there was no fear on his face. He turned to the executioner and spoke his final words. "Hurry it up. While you were walking around, I had already destroyed 12 men." Carl Panzram died that day, leaving behind no remorse, only darkness.